Yay! Here we are at another filter challenge, and I know we've all been having a lot of fun with these. This one is on the motion blur, and I know you've seen this photo before, but we're just going to play with it. I was trying to think of a photo I might have taken recently that might be one that we can blur so that it has motion. Some other types of photos you might think about are cars, or maybe a little one in a toy car, a bike, a swing, anything that you might want to use motion on. Now here is the layout I actually made for this lesson, and we'll go over that, what I did there. You know, it turned out to be something totally different than what I anticipated it to be. But we're going to play with this one first. Now there's a little tip that's going to help you use the motion blur filter, and that is to have more than one layer. We love layers. And let me show you, I've actually not played on this one yet. I'm kind of going with the flow, and we'll see what we can come up with. Since I want motion blur as if he's falling, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use a circle for this instance. You can use whatever kind of shape you want, even if you use the polygonal lasso tool or whatever, but I'm just going to use this, see what we get, and then I'm going to click Control J. So now we have a layer, a partial layer above this layer. Then I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and it comes up with this pop-up box. And you can see the last settings I had. I think it normally comes up with the angle as horizontal, but you're going to need to think about your photo. And if I remember, my husband in this photo is kind of falling this way, so I'm going to actually move the angle like this. Now you can use any distance you want. Of course, you see it's much more clear here, and it's not quite as fun to work with as if you get it either way up here, which that's a lot of motion, or somewhere in between. I'm just going to stop there and see what happens. Now I'm going to turn this other layer back on. Now the key to this is to create motion around the subject that you want to keep. And so I'm going to grab my eraser tool. Now I suppose you can also do this with layers. Certainly not with layers, but with a mask. In fact, let's Control J this and tuck one of them away so we can look at both methods. I found the opacity slider needed to be really far down for this to work on my eraser tool. And then you're going to just begin erasing so that you can reveal your subject. And I'm going to soften it on the edge here. And, if I wanted, I could have even made an extraction of him, or a selection of him, not an extraction, but a selection of him, and inversed it so that it would apply a little bit closer, because you see this isn't really working well. And in fact, I think for my purposes, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of most of this. It's almost like a big wind came, and then the motion is coming this way, and he's getting ready to fall. And I don't know if changing it to a soft light or something. See, I told you we're playing and learning together. Actually, I think if you're going to use anything, you might want to just lower the opacity. And you can see, I think that looks great right there. Let's get his face. Leave the blur there on his hand a little bit. And there, I think that looks pretty good. What do you think? And so that is going to give me the idea that he's falling down backwards. And here's the before, and there's the after. I want to clear him out a little bit more. There, before and after. And you can see over here in my thumbnail, I still have some blur. Here we can turn it off. The bottom layer off. You can see I still have some blur here, some gray here, and then it's heavier over here. So I do have it on both sides still, just heavier on one side than the other. Let's go ahead and play. If you're working in Photoshop Elements 9, this is what I'm working in. You can do a fake mask, as you've learned in my other lessons, if you're using one of the other versions. But in this case, we have an add layer mask right here in version 9, and white reveals, black conceals. Get our brush. This, of course, is assuming you know some of these advanced. That's the smart brush. Where did my brush go? Oh, it's hiding under the pencil. Some of the advanced things already from the lessons. And make sure this is active. I'm going to lower my opacity way down, and this time I'm just going to do this and apply it to that layer mask. Make sure his face shows, and see right there already that looks pretty cool. But the beauty of doing it this way with a layer mask is that if I needed to make my brush smaller and go back to white and bring in some of the blur again right in here, I could go back and do that. You know, closer to his leg, and then go back in here and, you know, just go back and forth with the black and the white brushes. Goofy guy, just like a kid. Okay, there we go. There's yet another way you can do it. You can lower that opacity. So that kind of gives you the idea how to utilize the motion blur with your pictures, such as I was describing earlier, your cars. I'm going to not save that because that's my original photo. Your swings and things like that. Here's the layout I made. Now, it turned out a lot different than I was going for because I ended up putting this layer here. See, when you turn it off, there's what I had started with, except for these were a different blending mode. And then I decided to add this texture layer from Kim Clausen, I think, and that just changed the whole thing. And so I want to take off a lot of this stuff and show you what I started with. Basically, here's my original photo. We were on a hike, and you can see we'd already hiked a pretty long way, and here's the top, and then it goes up some more, and actually when you get up here it goes up some more, and it had been going on like that for quite a while, henceforth where my text comes from on this. But I was just playing, trying to come up with something cool to do, and I actually took and applied a filter I duplicated it and applied a filter and the hard light blending mode. Again, same one. Here's the pin light till I made it pop. I'm not sure what filter I used on it now. I think it was the high pass one. And I thought, okay, I'm doing good. I got a photo that really pops. And now what am I going to do with it? Oh, I'm going to do the motion blur to it. So I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going to duplicate this layer again, this original one, bring it on up, and I went to the filter, blur, and motion blur, and you can see it's back to the settings that I had before, which that would actually make quite a cool background just as it is. But I thought, well, my steps are going up and down, so I'm going to make this vertical to go with my steps. And then I clicked OK, and then I took my eraser just as I did before, and I started gently erasing away. Oops, got a little bit too far over there. Anyway, I just started gently erasing away until I came up with this. I'm going to get rid of that extra one I just made. And so I went from this, which is really pretty cool, but I'm going for something artistic, and then I ended up with this. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do with this area over here? And, you know, this is the way it works when your artisticness comes out. You just keep thinking, I have no plans where I'm going with this. It just keeps happening. And you just keep playing. And even though I really like this photo as it is, and how high key it is, you know, this turned out pretty cool. So I went ahead and I made a solid color layer above it, and then I applied a gradient to the layer mask, and I came up with this, and I thought, okay, we're doing good. And I put my text on. I had more than one text. I couldn't decide what to say. And then I had these, but they were a different blending mode, and I thought I was done. And I thought that's pretty cool until I added the texture, and then I went, wow, okay. You know, you kind of lose the next step going up there, but it doesn't really matter. That's pretty cool. And I want to show you before I end, this motion blur layer actually still, even with the blending mode, even though you can't see the motion blur effect anymore in my example, it still played an important part, because if I go back here and I remove it, look what happens. You have a whole different perspective. You almost, even though it's cool seeing this one come out, it kind of gets in the way with the text, and you put it back, and it really helps. Really, really cool. So there are so many different things you can do with the motion blur. There's no right, there's no wrong. As I said, if you wanted to go back and do something you know, really cool, like I had it with it just totally blurring it, and use that as your background, you could do that. Play with your blending modes, just the whole kit and caboodle. Just have fun. And I can't wait to see what you can do with the motion blur, because I really think if you use your imagination and think about photos where you have things moving, as I did in the first example that I shared with you in this video, you all are going to come up with some really, really cool layouts or whatever you're doing with them. Have fun.